Let us help you reach your peak in retirement. It's time for Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the podcast. Back once again with Sean Lee to talk investing, finance, retirement. Sort of. We're going to actually just kind of talk a little bit about his new book he's had for a little bit. So we're going to get into that here on the podcast. This is Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. You and I were just complaining about the heat that's everywhere, but not much we can do about it, right? It's summertime, so it is what it is.
That's exactly it. I'd rather have the heat than the cold.
Yeah, that's true. I guess that you can always. Well, I don't know. You can only take off so many layers of clothes. When it's cold, you can keep adding them.
Winter doesn't suit me.
Yeah, you're in the wrong place for that, then, aren't you?
I know. 900 inches of snow later this winter.
900 inches. Oh man, that's good stuff. Well, let's jump in and just chat a little bit this week on the podcast about your book. So, Rounding Third: Preparing for Your Finances for the Home Stretch to Retirement. Very cool. Is this you on the cover?
No, it's actually not. It's a guy from the camp that I go to.
Okay.
Each year, and I reached out to they've got a photographer there. He takes thousands upon thousands of pictures of people at the camp, and you can buy them for a ridiculous amount of money.
Right.
And we all do. But I messaged him when I had this idea for this book, and I said, "Hey, send me what you have of guys rounding third base."
Okay.
And then we went through a couple of different mock-ups, redesigns. To hide the person's face and change the color scheme a little bit so It wasn't so wonky, and this is what we came up with.
Gotcha.
So,
okay. All right. I felt like you missed an opportunity there to be on the book, but
I was too fast. They couldn't get any good pictures of me.
That's what it was. You were rounding third too quickly.
Yeah, I was gone.
Well, so you got on here. You didn't set out to write a baseball book, but anybody who's listened to our podcast a couple times know that we talk quite often about it as an analogy and so on and so forth. So there's obviously many lessons you learn playing the game over 3 decades or so, and so has the book kind of go through some of these different kinds of things? As
I went out and started to really think about writing a book, a lot of the analogies we use, a lot of the things we talk about. In our practice each and every day, I always bring back to an experience that I had in the game, something I've gone through personally, or that my friends have gone through, or whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. And it was something that just connected. I think connects me to my practice really, and so when I started to think about this, I wanted to think about writing a book that was in my mind a little bit different. There are thousands of financial advisory books, and I didn't want to be that guy that wrote some book on just finance. I wanted to tie something in that was meaningful to me, and hopefully people like what they read and like what they hear. But at the end of the day, this book is my two worlds colliding.
Which I think is always going to add more realism to it.
Yeah, and it's what we've taken from the game. I played from the time I was 5 until I stopped playing when I was 32, and that's Little League, through high school, going through a college recruiting process to play, unfortunately injury, and then playing, afterwards. You learn a lot in the game of baseball.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's one of, in my mind, it's the most beautiful game to learn life experiences.
Yeah, I think sports in general, right, have always done a very good job of teaching us lessons. There's some that say, sports just, brings too much competitive nature to things. But I think that's the low-hanging fruit, right? If you're looking to kind of break it, give it a hard time, the concept of sports, that's the easy place to go to. But there's so many other valuable lessons, teamwork and camaraderie and having to really kind of be aware of the surroundings and situationalness, right? We hear it all the time in sports conversation. Situational football, situational baseball, clock management, all these kinds of things really can apply to life and even retirement.
Well, I have a buddy that I coached with for years, and he always used to tell our boys, we're playing chess, not checkers. And I really didn't catch what he was saying until I thought about it. And it's true. As baseball is a game where there's multiple outcomes at any given time. You have to think in advance, there's not just one play that you can make at any given time. Mm-hmm. So there's always different scenarios that come up. Every pitch is a different scenario, and when he said that, I thought about that and I thought, well, let's bring that back to finance as well, because if there was one cookie cutter solution or one cookie cutter result every single time, planning would be super easy.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I think in the financial planning world, we're playing chess, not checkers, when it comes to building plans that work. There's not one right scenario. There's not one right outcome. Mm-hmm. You've got multiple scenarios in any given situation that you need to account for.
Yeah, and we joke and say things like, especially in the financial services world, that if we came with an expiration stamp on us, like a carton of milk, it'd be super easy to create the greatest plan ever for each individual person, right?
Exactly.
But we don't have that. So, so let's get back to the book here and talk a little bit about some things. So, it's a pretty good, it's an easy read for folks too, right? So it's nothing too daunting. So you don't feel like, if you want to get a copy of it, by the way, all you got to do is reach out to Sean and the team. They'll send you one out to check out, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so just go by the website, elevatemyretirement.com. That's elevatemyretirement.com. It's about 125 pages, somewhere in that neighborhood, it looks like. So, again, it's something you can kind of go through and not have to worry about spending tons of time, but you're going to get some good lessons out of it. I like some of the chapter titles you've got in here. Obviously, Life is a Ball Game kicks it right off, right? Yeah. So that's a good way of looking at it. But you kind of go through taxes, market volatility, retirement income, Social Security, 401s, Ks and IRAs, annuities, estate and legacy. I like this one too. Women retire too.
They do.
What a concept, right?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So I think it's good that you're addressing that in there as well, and so it gives, and that way, because maybe baseball's not, for some ladies they're not interested in sports or maybe baseball, but there's still something in there for them to realize and read through as well. And I think it's also good for spouses, because oftentimes we want to make sure that we're making the right decisions, not only just for while we're here, but for what happens when we're gone, because often we pass away first.
Right. And when we put the book together, I didn't want it to be like this dry cookie cutter approach to planning. I really wanted to include the largest demographic that's the least prepared for retirement as well, which is our women. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that women don't save, but
it's
in
just
a lot of cases,
right? Yeah, it's the natural order of how things have been. It's getting better all the time, right? But it just is what it is. Statistics are what they are.
It is, and unfortunately, majority of women don't feel adequately prepared for retirement.
Exactly.
And so we wanted to include that, regardless if it's a book about finance or baseball, but we need to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to retire. And I wanted the book to be an easy read, a quick read. I actually have a friend I coach baseball with him. He's an advisor at one of the big shops, and I gave him the book. I said, "Let me know what you think."
Okay.
Not thinking that he would even read it.
Right.
He's like, "Sean, I read it in a day and a half." He's like, "It flowed well. It was easy. It was just a nice, comfortable read," and that actually meant a lot, coming from a friend who's in the same industry, works for a big wirehouse, and he took the time to read the book and actually gave me some good feedback on it.
Yeah, that's fantastic, right? So it's always good to get that information from your peers. And, when we're talking about the concept of retirement, so many advisors, rightfully so, over the last number of years have made it a more concerned focus to make sure that both parties are involved in the process, because often it is the ladies that wind up getting underserved, and typically there's all those statistics and numbers out there that they don't have as much set aside for retirement as their male counterparts, although the numbers for couples, period, is actually much lower than I think we'd all like it to be. So it's still an underserved thing, period, getting ourselves ready for retirement. We get so busy with life that sometimes we just kind of forget to pay our future selves, right?
Exactly.
So we got to certainly do all that. So some good stuff in here. So any kind of particular place in here that's kind of your favorite, something that really kind of jumped out at you? There's quite a bit of going through the basic breakdowns of retirement. Would it be the first chapter where you're really talking about the game of baseball, or would it be something towards the end, or what's your favorite?
Actually, it's the Scouting a Financial Professional chapter.
Okay.
And the reason is, if you go through the book, it talks about my aspirations before I came into this industry of not wanting to be an advisor, really.
Right.
Because I was going to the big leagues as a small boy.
That's right.
But I think that's one of the more powerful chapters because now you can. We walk people through what to look for in an advisor, how to find an advisor. Kind of put it into, if you were the scout for a major league team, what sort of qualities are you looking for in a player? And so that's probably my favorite chapter.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, we did an episode a while back about trying to find the peak items for a baseball recruit, right? What do they call that? The five
tools.
The 5 tools, yeah, 5-tool player. And we kind of did a nice little analogy with some of that as well. So again, you can find all these kinds of interesting things that work within sport, and it helps when you've got a passion and enjoy different things in life, and you merge those, right? So that's what Rounding Third seems to be all about. So very cool, man. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, folks, again, if you'd like to get a copy of it, reach out to Sean. All you got to do is let them know you'd like to pick it up, and they'll send that to you. And you can check it out. You can go to elevatemyretirement.com. That's elevatemyretirement.com, or just reach out to them at 855-50-RETIRE, 855-50-RETIRE, and pick up a copy of Rounding Third. And maybe we'll do more of a deep dive later on. We'll go through a couple of chapters or whatever and break them down a little bit here on the podcast as well. But I just wanted to kick it off and talk about it a little bit first and toss it out there for folks who might be interested.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out on the podcast for a few minutes. We'll be back next time with more content here with Sean Lee on Retirement Elevated with Sean from Elevated Retirement Group.
Investment advisory services offered through Elevated Capital Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor.